coming out this evening to our first forum. It's the candidate's second forum of the season. The We Decide Coalition, you'll hear a little bit more about them later, but wanted to have an opportunity to gather you all, you know how we do this, so that we can just get in front and hear and see, right? I'd like to introduce our moderator for the evening, too. Charlotte is totally amazing. We've already said the major things, and she's gonna hold it down in here for us this evening. She's had many major accomplishments. She's a former state representative, former commissioner for the MCAD, doing some great things in our community, staying present. You all know her. I don't really have to introduce her. I apologize for the technology, but Charlotte Golar-Richie.
Thank you, Cheryl. Crawford, you are an amazing woman, and I'm so happy that you asked me to come and moderate this forum. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. This is really, really great. Before we got started, I was commenting on the fact that we have such a great turnout, which speaks to the civic engagement of the folks in District 7, and it's District 7 that's the focus of our conversation here this evening. It is a privilege for me to be here with you all and with our candidates here this evening. This candidates forum, Cheryl mentioned, is the second that's been held this campaign season, but it is the first that's been sponsored by the series of organizations that are part of this. And these folks here, these candidates, are running for a very important job. They'd like to be city council of the District 7 seat in the Boston City Council. Looking up at the lineup of candidates, we know that we've got many fine people here who are vying for this seat. I mentioned civic engagement, and I understand that civic engagement appears in various forms, including important grassroots organizing. And it is grassroots organizing that made this event tonight happen. It's grassroots organizing that will propel these candidates and the one lucky candidate to success. I want to acknowledge the We Decide Coalition for developing the format and questions and for making tonight's forum possible. So let's now turn our attention to these candidates and the job they've launched their campaigns to win. This district, as I said, is fortunate to have many good people who are vying for the city council job. We've got 13 candidates in all who had enough signatures to get on the ballot. We have 11 of them with us here tonight. We applaud you for your participation, for your activism, for your interest, your courage to really make this run. And we appreciate your desire to serve this community. Thank you, candidates. Also, I want to point out the fact that running for office, and I suppose I know a little something about that, is like a mega job interview, isn't it? And you all are the hiring committee. And we would not want to hire someone if we did not meet them. So you're doing the right thing by being out here this evening, to meet the candidates, to size them up, to hear what their issues are, to pose your questions, to see if the right person is there who will represent you in the right way at the city council. And that's what this process is all about. A little bit about the history. We know how the seat became available. It's through the news that we received that Councilor Tito Jackson was no longer going to be serving and was not going to run for re-election. We want to thank Councilor Jackson for his service. And we also, want to thank and acknowledge the previous councilors, Chuck Turner, Gareth Saunders, the late Tony Creighton, and the late Bruce Bowling. So just so you know what's at stake here in terms of the job, it is a full-time salaried position with a 2-year term. The successful candidate will serve with 12 other councilors and will represent the neighborhoods of Roxbury, part of the Fenway, and the South End. She or he will craft and enact laws, advocate for programs and services, serve as a key connection between the residents of this district and City Hall. There are plenty of issues for candidates to address in that particular position. So let's meet these 11 candidates. The first is Angelina Camacho. She's a program manager for the Financial Futures Initiative ABCD, Action for Boston Community Development, former co-chair of the Citywide Parents Council, and volunteer with No Books, No Ball basketball program. Angelina's vision for the district is to see a community that works for all through shared leadership, true equity, and opportunity for our residents. Next is Joao DePina. He's a small business owner of a local floral shop, treasurer of the Ward 12 Democratic Committee, a former campaign worker for the campaigns of Representative Ibandro Caballo, Governor Deval Patrick, Councilor Tito Jackson. His vision features a peaceful community with living wage jobs, housing for all, trauma services, educational equity for all of our children, and unified neighborhoods. Rufus Faulk, he's the director of the Gang Mediation Initiative at the Boston 10-Point Coalition. Rufus envisions a community where his daughter has full access to the resources and prosperity within this city, and zip codes no longer determine quality of life. Carlos Henriquez, he is a former state representative from the 5th Suffolk District and City Council aide. Carlos's vision is for safe, vibrant neighborhoods with affordable housing, quality education, opportunities for all residents, and a powerful district led by residents. Janey, she's the Senior Project Director at the Massachusetts Advocates for Children. Kim's vision includes a strong, safe, healthy, and vibrant community where residents thrive and enjoy the full benefits of living in Boston, whether young or old. Deeqo Jibril, she's the founder and executive director of the Somali Community and Cultural Association. Deeqo envisions a District 7 without barriers, an inclusive community where people can succeed regardless of circumstances in which they've been born. Brian Key is the president of the Mount Pleasant Avenue Vine and Forest Street Neighborhood Association. Brian envisions a district in which we nurture our young, support our seniors, develop reasonably, break the cycle of opioid addiction, and create a jobs initiative. Jose Lopez, he's an attorney with Avalon Law Offices advocating for clients on civil and criminal cases. He's a former member of the Boston Public School Diversity Task Force. According to Jose, District 7 is its people, a place, a future, and a past, and he says that nourishing and investing in these aspects equally is our challenge and duty at this critical crossroads. Charles Clemons Muhammed, he's the owner of Touch 106.1 FM radio. He is a former operator of First Choice Limousine Service. He is a former Boston police officer and corrections officer. Charles envisions a district that is healthy and thriving and one with robust economic development, superior public safety, high quality public education, and one that is a destination location.
I actually just graduated from Howard University School of Law last year. So I am a Juris Doctor, but I am not an Esquire.
He's an attorney, educator, and community activist. Hassan envisions a culturally connected, safe, and clean district, inclusive of all people, income and housing levels, and top-tier schools, and a great place to live and work. So we now have a chance for them to add to their vision, to talk a little bit, just in a short period of time, to let us know, to expand on this vision that I shared with you all, okay? And they have a short period of time to do that, 1 minute and 1 minute and a half to do that. And what I want you to do is elaborate on this vision that you shared with us.
I moved to Roxbury after graduating Boston College, and what I've noticed is that I have neighbors who are losing their homes to banks, Deutsche Bank, to foreclosures. After teaching in Boston Public Schools for 7 years, I realized that Boston's never gonna be the city it can because of this Achilles heel in its public schools. And I know Boston has a lot for us to offer, and we can do a lot. We're gonna need leadership that's gonna be able to organize, prioritize, and direct interest and funds to our community so that us and our neighbors can stay there and survive. And that's why I decided to run, and I'd be very happy to represent each and every one of you the best that I could as your city councilor. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. First, I want to thank the host committee and the audience for being here, and I also want to thank my fellow fabulous candidates of District 7. I am Deeqo Jibril. I came to Boston when I was 12 years old. My family and I were among the lucky Somalis that escaped the civil war in Somalia in 1991. Since then, I've been living in Roxbury. Today, I am a single mother of 4 children. I created 6 local businesses in Dudley Square. I have experienced both non-profit, for-profit. The last 3 years, I've been doing youth and police dialogue, where I created the first Muslim youth and police dialogue in the country. And since 91, I have seen Roxbury change, and I represent that change. And my vision for the district is to, envision a district that is united, 1. Second, that don't have barriers. And I am running for Boston City Council, District 7, because I know this community. I have advocated for this community. And as someone who immigrated to America, I feel like our community and the immigrant community are not united. And it's time that District 7 lead the way by uniting everyone. And I look forward to talking to each one of you and getting to hear about your stories. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the host committee. You guys already know a little bit about me. But my name is Domonique Williams, and I'm running for City Council for District 7. I was born and raised in Roxbury, and I like to say I have that fighting Roxbury spirit. I got my start in Councilor Turner's district office down in Dudley, and I come from a family dedicated to public service. I went to 2 HBCUs, Winston-Salem State University and Howard University School of Law, to learn how to advocate for communities of color and for those who are traditionally unheard. I have a history of public service. I worked for the Boston Office of Fair Housing and Equity. I worked for the Massachusetts Attorney General's office, and I also worked for the FAA under the Obama administration. My vision for the district includes returning a district office here to our corner of the city, fighting for affordable housing and home ownership opportunities, and also advocating for diversification of the police and fire department. I feel like it's time for us to elect a city councilor who has my level of skill, some knowledge of the law, and a passion for this community, and I will be asking for your vote on September 26th.
Good evening, my name is Joao DePina, and I want to say thank you to the audience for coming out first, because without you, this wouldn't be going on. Then I want to thank the host committee for hosting this event, because without them, this wouldn't be going on. I grew up in DCF Care, which is formerly DSS, and I lived all throughout the city and all throughout the state, but I spent most of my time here in Roxbury. And Roxbury is dear to my heart. I continue to do a lot of work around activism, fighting, helping families that are dealing with trauma, with their children being murdered and having nowhere to go. I've been the resource on the ground, fighting and advocating for these families at no pay. This is just something I do. I find that my therapy is helping people. I've been helping people for many years, as I worked in a pharmacy for 12 years, helping elderly and making sure that they had their proper medications, regardless of their insurances. Even sometimes I would just break the law, to make sure that these people would have medications so they could stay up abroad. And I mean by breaking the law, I mean simply like not taking their copay because they don't have the copay. So I break the law of the pharmacy, not physical laws. And also, I fight very hard for our community, and I will continue to do that. I'm a strong voice, and I will speak up for this community as I have been.
Good evening. My name is Henriquez, and as one representative said earlier, this is very much like a job interview, so I want to take this minute and a half to give you a little bit about my resume. I am a lifelong resident of District 7. And at the age of 15, I grew up in a very civically engaged household where my parents exposed me to community organizing and civic engagement. And since 1991, I've had a passion for it, from community organizing to sitting on community boards where we could advocate for funds and needs for our community. I took that level of interest and got a job on the city council supporting a city councilor as a constituent director for Roxbury and Dorchester, learning how to bring those services closest to us, whether it was crosswalks, schools, or other issues. I then became a former state representative, or became a state representative, and learned about legislation and the budget issues that impact us day to day. So the issues we're going to talk about tonight, the issues we talk about in our living room, are the issues that I've been working on consistently for for over 15 to 20 years. I have a resume of experience and results that I'd like to bring and focus on the District 7 City Council so that we can move past having to deal with the issues, but actually show results and make gains on the issues that we've dealt with time and time again. So I know throughout the course of this evening, we're going to have short time to answer these questions. I hope you'll hear a little bit that in the future, we'll continue to connect and share the resume of your history and mine and figure out where we can meet in the middle. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here. My name is Kim Janey, and I was born into a large family of educators, artists, entrepreneurs, and activists. My family has been in Roxbury for almost 100 years over the span of 6 generations. And I took the lessons of advocacy, of leadership, of service, and of protest from my parents, and I became a community organizer. As a young single mom, I began advocating for my own daughter, but not just her, for children and families across our community. As a senior project director for Massachusetts Advocates for Children, I lead the fight for quality education, advocating for equity, access, and opportunity for children of color, children who live in poverty, English language learners, and students with disabilities. I'm running to be your next Boston City Councilor because our community is at a crossroads. We have income inequality that is growing in our city, and there's all this economic boom, but we're being left out of the opportunity and we're being pushed out of our community. And this is true regardless of whether you live in Roxbury, South End, Dorchester, or Fenway. So what we need are creative solutions for affordable housing so that we can stay in our neighborhoods. We need economic justice and jobs that pay a real living wage. We need safe, strong, healthy communities, and we need good schools for our children, and we need programs for our seniors. That is what I'm fighting for, and I ask for your vote on September 26th. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hassan Williams. Born in Roxbury, Boston City Hospital, now Boston Medical Center. Went to Boston Technical High School, graduated from Boston Technical High School, Morehouse College, Boston College Law School. Married, lived in Roxbury, corner of Washington and MLK. I've been here all my life. I'm the right person for the job. So this race, in my view, is about experience, action, and solutions. As a former homeless person, yes, I slept on the streets of Boston. Slept in the hallways of Boston. I know what it means to be homeless. And as a former homeless person and current attorney, I have the experience to lead this district exceptionally. I'm a doer, not a talker. My actions will line up with my words. And last, we can keep on talking about the problems, but only solutions count. My campaign is about solutions. I'm asking for your vote September 26th, as well as November 7th. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here, to be in Roxbury, neighborhood I grew up in. I'm born and raised in this community, and I say that with pride. I'm a product of our public school system. I'm a product of the services that a city council is supposed to be advocating for, which gives me context. I'm a graduate of Temple University. I got my master's from Boston University. I'm working on my doctorate right now at Northeastern in law and policy. And I say that not to gloat, but to say that, or to brag, but to say that it's possible. We have enormous potential in this community, but unfortunately, we aren't investing in it. Our people aren't a priority, and that's what needs to change. So my vision is ensuring that Roxbury is included in the prosperity that Boston is enjoying. We have an economic boom happening, but it's not impacting our neighborhoods, it's not impacting our community and our families. I just was at a funeral for a 27-year-old today. I just saw some unrealized potential, and we lost too many young people to a lack of priorities and unfortunately too much rhetoric. So it is time for action. It's time to get beyond buzzwords and to get on the ground and doing work. And that's what I've been doing for the last 15 years, on the ground doing work in this community. And I want to continue to do so as your next city councilor. So I will appreciate the opportunity to knock on your door. I promise it won't be too late, and to have another conversation about how I can help you and how we can help each other to build our neighborhood moving forward. Thank you.
I will be your next city councilor for District 7. I was born and raised here in Roxbury. It's not my first time at the rodeo. I actually ran for mayor in the city of Boston, not because I wanted to become mayor, Because the reason was so that the poor, the underserved, the working class could have a voice at those forums and debates. However, I ran for City Council District 7 2 years ago, came in second place. The incumbent won. However, the incumbent, Tito Jackson, is running for mayor. That makes me the #1 contender. I want you to know that I've started 5 successful businesses, hired thousands of Boston residents. Over 50% of them have had quarries. The love, the passion that I have for my community, I want to take that same love and passion for my community and bring it to City Hall and bring the resources back to our community. There's no reason why Roxbury is not looking like West Roxbury. Faith, I'm a man of faith. Service, I'm a man of service. Community, I'm a man of community. And I've been doing it for 40 years. I look for your vote on September 26th. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Keith, a lifelong resident of Boston, a graduate of the John D. O'Brien School of Math and Science, and a graduate of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach, Florida. I attended Embry-Riddle because my dream was to be a pilot. I didn't realize the cost of college, didn't realize the additional cost of being a pilot, so I deferred that dream because my family just couldn't afford it. I stayed at the school because it was my passion, and I received a degree in aviation business administration. Today, I serve as Vice President of Sales for a jet company in Boston. I moved to Roxbury with my wife 4 years ago. We knew after we purchased our home that we were going to be long-term residents in this community. That was cemented almost 2 years ago now when we had our son. We knew we were going to be raising our son long-term in this very community. Because of that, I became president of my neighborhood association 4 months after we moved in. We engaged the community, we engaged stakeholders, including homeowners and renters in the issues surrounding development, housing, jobs and opportunity, the opioid crisis. And we found solutions and we found successes in engaging the community and engaging all those stakeholders. I want to bring those successes that we found and that we had in our community to this district and to this city. And I hope to engage all of you this evening and moving forward, and hope to own your vote as we move forward in this race on September 26th. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. All right. Thank you for being here. Thank you to our host. My name is Angelina Camacho. I am a child of the district, and also from my name, you know that I am the child of immigrants. My family came from Honduras and moved right over to 76 Rockland Street. And my parents, when they got married, had their first apartment right on Mass Ave. I have been here, I have been committed here, and I have lived and learned from many experiences which sharpened my resolve on social service. Where I actually served right in this building at ABCD until last Friday. Amen, right? I'm a cooperative homeowner at St. Joseph's Community, so my heart remains here. I'm here because, like you, I'm concerned about what's happening in our community. It is clear that there is a war on Roxbury. Like you, I have a passion for addressing the position that we're in. One where our community is not always deciding what's happening within its walls, but we can change that. I have experience on many issues that we face, from income inequality to affordable housing and home ownership, from education to building opportunities for youth to lead and learn, and protecting our senior community. I am ready to fight with my team as we will open doors to stronger communities, with the tools of collaboration to resolve conflict when we can and to conflict the comfortable when we can make sure that we have tried and come through otherwise. We will break down every wall. We will build a community for all. We will open doors to a stronger community, but only if you walk in with us on September 26th. Thank you.
What we're going to do is have a Q&A at this point. First, I'm going to pose questions that were organized by the sponsors of this forum. Then we'll have an opportunity to hear from you all. Both questions relate to housing. Big issue in District 7. The residents in District 7 have expressed very strong concerns that developers are looking to come into the neighborhoods of District 7 and flip homes for profit, making it very impossible for low and moderate income families to get the housing that they need. In other words, they're being priced out of their neighborhoods. How will you ensure residents, homeowners, and tenants are able to afford to live in their community?
The main term that we use in my community is engagement. We ensured that we engaged our residents, and we also engaged the developers that were coming in. You know, my neighborhood's no different than all of your neighborhoods in here. We have an influx of development in our neighborhood as well. In the 4 years that I've been president of the Neighborhood Association, 60 units are either online or in the pipeline to be built. All of those units were slated to be market rate units. What we did was we engaged the developers from the beginning of the conversation, not towards the end. One thing that we find a lot in this community is that we, the community, are not involved in the conversation until the halftime or the fourth quarter. That leaves us in the position where the only thing we can do, the only opportunity we have to do is protest. We have to get out in the street, we have to complain, we have to be in people's faces. What we did in my community was we had conversations from the beginning, and we ensured that the developers knew what we wanted, and what we wanted was represented in the final product. And that's what we got. You know, we were able to have developers that only wanted market rate, but they were not mandated to build any affordability, but we negotiated affordability within these 60 units. We also brought a developer that was looking to build 28 units on what was once 14 units. We negotiated with him and brought him to 18 units. And not only that, he was going to build all rentals. We negotiated and we were able to work with him, and he's now building 9 homeownership opportunities and 9 rentals.
Thank you.
So in my opinion, it's all about engagement. It's all about working with people. It's all about letting the developer know that you're serious.
First and foremost, we have to recognize that this did not happen in 2017. This is a byproduct of decades of divestment, and most importantly, income inequality, which is a major issue. We can't afford to stay in our homes, and we can't afford to buy in our neighborhoods. That is an issue with the industries that can provide the employment. We don't have access to, either not by the skills, or we aren't building pathways to those jobs. So on the building side, we need to make sure that we are galvanizing our neighborhood associations, because as Brian Keefe just spoke about, that we have neighborhood associations fighting these fights, but they're fighting them independently. We need to bring these neighborhood associations together, so as a unit, we can say for District 7, here are the housing standards that we want our developers to abide by. We want to make sure that we are defining what housing affordability actually looks like, because it's just a buzzword. We hear affordable housing, it's not being defined. It is not being defined by the neighborhood and by the neighbors. So I want to ensure that we start from that process by defining what that looks like.
As your city councilor, I would hold developers accountable for creating mixed income opportunities so that working families who cannot afford subsidies and who don't qualify for subsidies and can't afford market rate don't get squeezed out. We also have to address the lack of student housing. That is driving up the cost in our neighborhoods. We have to regulate the short-term corporate rentals that come into our community at $200 a night. That drives up the market in terms of our rents. We have to support our nonprofit partners like Right to the City. We need to promote the Jim Brooks Stabilization Act and just cause evictions. And then finally, we need home ownership opportunities for families. And we can be creative about that. We need to make sure that we're getting our linkage dollars from these big projects coming in so that those dollars can flow into our community for affordable housing.
We need to tighten up the linkage program. Get them to give more than $200,000 per unit. So these developers that are building luxury condos, just like on Humboldt Ave, they go to 9 units, so they don't have to make no subsidized units or no affordable units. And as we all know, affordable is no longer affordable to us, because we're talking about $25,000 to $35,000 income in our community, and we have houses that are going up that we can't afford any longer. We also need to look out like projects that are coming in like to Townsend Street or Dudley Square that, you know, particularly there's a contractor that one of our opponents is a family member that is building a 25-story building with no parking. And the units is condos and no home ownership. So we don't have home ownership in our community anymore.
Affordable housing is very personal to me. I am a single mother who raised her children at Academy Homes. It's a housing complex in the district. Someone who worked for ABCD over a decade, and Children's Services of Roxbury, as a housing specialist, I see the housing struggles that my community face. As a city council, I will make sure that, communities, as a city council, I will make sure that I put more resources on housing, because that's where I'm raising my kids. If it wasn't affordable housing, I wouldn't be able to afford to live in Roxbury and raise my kids. And developers are not just coming to place our families, they are coming to place our local businesses too. As a city council, I will bring everybody at the table to represent the whole community. I will hold accountable to developers and make sure that if they're gonna build buildings in our building, 40% or 30% are low-income families.
Boston Housing Authority provides subsidized housing to about 60,000 residents throughout the city. There are still many residents in HA housing and have been on a waiting list for lengthy periods of time. As a result, many individuals face the tough dilemma of either being homeless, they face homelessness, or they're on the street, or they're having to check into a shelter and worry about their public safety. What avenues would you recommend to people who find themselves in tough situations due to long housing wait lists? And what would you do to make sure we truly are making progress to end homelessness?
First of all, we have to understand that our brothers and sisters' problems are our problems. Our brothers and sisters' success is our success. However, I would propose, number one, that when we build, we have to understand that the word affordable to who? No, what we need is 1/3 low income, 1/3 moderate, 1/3 market rate. Then we have to understand that the job of a city councilor is to be the link to the people, to the resources. The resources are there in government for anything that we need. And as your city councilor for District 7, I will make sure that those resources are brought to District 7. And we have to also remember that there are over 60 projects that are going on right now in District 7. As your city councilor, we will put a halt to those projects and start finding these developers who are not supporting us and hit them with 25% of their profit.
As a former homeless person, I can tell you what I did. Went from the streets to a room. From a room, I got an education and a job. Went from a job to an apartment. From an apartment, got more education. And from there, I got married and bought a house. So what I don't see in our community is enough rooming houses. We need rooming houses. See, if you look at Japan's model, Japan has micro apartments, mini apartments, apartments, and houses. Micro for a reason. People can move into a micro house, which is a rooming house. It gives them a house. Once you have a house, you have a residence, you have an address. Once you have an address, you can now get city services. That's the transition, that's the process to develop and move us from homelessness to housing, from being non-taxpayers to taxpayers. I've done it, people do it every single day. We need more, that 10% should be low income, rooming houses, then 30%, low income, 30% to 30%.
So I think it starts with a personal look first. I think we have to change how we look at homelessness. Whether we'll admit it or not, a lot of us walk past homeless people every day, and in the back of our minds, we think they must have done something wrong to receive that fate of being homeless. My mother was the administrator for the Boston Housing Authority for years, and she told me that housing is a cornerstone for anybody. And without adequate housing and safe housing, you can't think about sending your kids to school. You can't think about healthy food. You can't think about any of those things. So I do think we need transitional housing. I think we need to create it with programming and pathways that do allow you to get to jobs, educational courses. And I would start by looking at city buildings that are vacant or underutilized, that we don't have to build from the ground up and start to utilize those as a way to start transitioning people into safe shelter and into those healthy programs.
So there are a couple of ways that we can address the issue. First, we need to talk about some of the developments that are already going up in the city. We're not opposed to development. We want to see more development, but we just want to make sure that the units are affordable for people. So there's some issues that we're facing right now. Currently over at on Townsend Street, Radius Hospital is planning to put in 322 units. None of them are affordable. Parcel 3, same thing, 700 units. Barely any affordable units, only 9 or 10. So we need to increase development, but we also want to see more affordability in those units as well.
As an educator, I work with a lot of families, and I agree that transitional housing is absolutely what's going to help us move people from the streets into homes. But there's a big elephant in the room, and that's how are we going to pay for all of this? Right now, we have more than $15 billion of land that we give away to colleges and universities, and we're not collecting enough income from those in taxes, and those partners can do more. And we can use that money to help fund more housing opportunities for people who are looking for them. The money's out there, but we need to push them to do that. I went to a college that does not give its fair share, and I'm on an alumni committee, and I push my president at every meeting to give more to Boston because the residents here need it, and it's about time that they give their fair share. And if we do that, we'll have the money to provide affordable housing and transitional housing to our neighbors, our friends, and those who we don't need it. It is possible here, but we need to organize.
Let's talk about, when we're talking about homeless, who we're really talking about. Since 2008, there was a study that showed that 100,000 people have spent at least one night homeless. At least one. Our city has to redefine our vision of if we build it, they'll come, where about 50% of our families are living together, either with or without children. And yet, even though Greater Boston has about 84% of their units 2 or more bedrooms, only 67% in Boston meet that same criteria. Thank you. So we really need to focus on building units that actually meet the current need and building affordable units based on local affordability standards. We can make those adjustments. We can leverage funds that we know exist through our financial institution through Community Reinvestment Act, as well as asking our universities and hospitals who take the biggest footprint to do more to make sure that everyone has a place to call home first before we try to build from there. Thank you.
Despite Boston Police Department's best efforts, there is still a level of mistrust between community members and police officers. And yes, the epidemic of police brutality and disrespect to people of color that we've seen occur across the country does not help with this issue. Right. So how do we plan to engage police officers and residents so that our violence and public safety issues can be solved together?
I think first and foremost, we have to establish a level of accountability, and that comes from a civilian review board. We also need to make sure that our police department mirrors the community in which it's serving. So in order to do that, we need to make sure that we are developing the cadet program, which is doing its best job to recruit Black and brown young men and women to be a part of the force. But we also need to change the residency requirement on the veterans exemption, forgive me, from 1 to 3 years. So we need to make sure that our police force actually mirrors the community. We also need to make sure that we're holding them accountable. And in terms of building trust, that comes from conversation, and that comes from a level of accountability and transparency, where we're not hiding things and we're not feeling like it's an adversarial relationship. It only comes from when police department and the community feel like they're together working as one.
So I agree with the piece around community policing, and I would suggest that we look at some of the models that have worked in the past to see what we can learn from that and push that forward. I also agree with the Civilian Review Board. What I would add is more focus on the diversifying of the police force, as well as body cameras. Right now we have a pilot in the city of Boston, and I would push, as your next city councilor, to expand that for all police. We also have to make sure that our local police are not acting as ICE agents. That is not who we are as a city. We need to make sure that all of our immigrants feel safe and secure here. And then finally, we cannot talk about public safety without also talking about criminal justice reform. And there are a number of issues that I would push for on criminal justice reform.
The Civilian Review Board, the cameras, we definitely need those. I know the former city councilor used to fight for the Civilian Review Board for a long time, and I would go to City Hall and I'll continue to fight for that. Also, we need to train our police officers to deal with our community. We put police officers in our community that don't reflect our community and don't know anything about our cultural senses in our community. So we really need to train the Boston Police Department and every officer how to deal with that. We also need to deal with the PTSD that some of these officers deal with when they are on the force, because they come from war sometimes or overseas, and they come back and they do suffer some PTSD, and we are not looking at that as part of our solution and the problem in our community, because they need to be able to have a better community policing attitude. When you have police officers coming yelling at you with obscene language, it doesn't make it comfortable for us as black males in our community being targeted all the time.
As a city council, I would strongly support the civilian review. As an immigrant woman who speaks English as a second language, I know how intimidated you can get when a police officer stops you, and where you were born or raised, you cannot interact with law enforcement. That's why I started the first Muslim and police engagement, because Muslim communities were tagged and profiled. Our youth are not different than any other youth. I created a local community dialogue where I hold them accountable. I said, anybody that has, Muhammed doesn't mean a terrorist. From management to the bottom, I provided cultural competency training. And as a city council, I will continue to hold them accountable, and I will diversify from top to the bottom, I will diversify the police department. The police needs to look like the communities they serve. Some of them don't even speak our language. How are they gonna protect and serve us? So it's time to change that.
A lot of us attended the MAMLEO conference, the Massachusetts Minority Police Union conference last week, and we heard a lot about the same problems that they've been experiencing for 40 plus years. Nothing's changed. We need to talk about solutions. They're pushing right now for a 3-year residency. I would push that even harder. We need to push for a 5-year residency. We need to ensure that the force that's protecting us, looks like us, represents us. There's a preference for persons who served in the military. That preference extends to individuals, whether they're from California, whether they're from Texas, whether they're from Alaska. They can come here and live for 1 year, and they jump to the top of the line. I would propose a compromise. We should focus on, if we're going to have a preference for military, we should focus on military individuals who are from the state of Massachusetts. At least that way, we can, take care of our veterans, make sure that they have jobs, but we're not taking care of veterans that are from other states. We're taking care of veterans from Massachusetts.
Thank you. What do you see as successful violence prevention and community policing strategies?
Madison Park High School. Everyone knows it's the only trade school we have in the city of Boston. I said this last week, we need to have the cadet programs run through Madison Park High School. We should start there as a pilot program, working through there. That means the police department, the fire department, and any other city department that has jobs will go through our schools. Once we develop it, we expand it through the school process. What does that do? That says to these kids, my education means something. So now they actually have hope. They know when they finish their education, they're going to immediately go into the police department as a cadet. That means they have a job. Hope, jobs replace violence. People that have hope don't have any reason to be violent, right? We're utilizing what we have, our school department, our police department, our fire department, to enhance our students who come from here. So you're talking about diversity? They will come from us. It will be a natural growth. It's a no-brainer. It's a win-win. That's what we should be doing with our school system in all aspects of the school system.
As one city councilor, you can advocate for a lot of these things, but the how is very important, because we've been talking about these same issues for decades. So the how is, there's 13 city councils you're going to work with. So if you want to have improved police relations, then you have to find like-minded councilors. They're going to sit down with you and other residents and have regular conversations about strategies. If you're going to push for diversity, you're going to have a working relationship with the captains in B2 and D4 in the community, and making sure you're talking to them about the day-to-day interactions. If you're going to build trust, you're going to have to witness those interactions between officers and young people. And some of the ideas are just advocacy. We're going to have to support state-level issues as residency. Those are going to be supporting Representative Tyler and Holmes and those issues, pushing forward at that level. But the number one thing we need to do is we need to start taking responsibility for ourselves. The young men from the Little Frederick that were standing outside said that they would like to see more men in their community outside on their walk home from school. So before we look outside of our community for police officers and someone else, we should start doing it as the men and women in our community and be the watchers for our community?
First, I think, of course, we need to diversify the police force. We want to see a police force that's reflective of the community that it's serving. And then second, we also want to start talking about how to provide jobs to the youth. So that way they have other more constructive things to do with their time as opposed to picking up a gun and becoming violent. One way that I would do that, I like that you suggested, that there are certain things that city councilors can do and cannot do. One program that I would like to see beefed up and provided with more funding is Operation Exit. It's a program for at-risk youth. It gives them the opportunity to obtain jobs, building and trade and culinary arts and tech. That program also provides a lot of money to, 60% of it goes to young fathers and helps them to unionize for trade careers in the future. So I would love to be able to see that program beefed up.
On my street, usually when I see an officer, they're going about 25 miles an hour in a car. That is not how we community police. Community policing takes time. It takes people who are going slow enough so they could recognize who are the go-to peoples in our community, who know what's going on, who we can talk to when there are issues. So here we go. First thing I would do, we need more police officers on bicycles. You know how many the city of Boston has? 30 for the entire city. We need more police officers on bicycles. Secondly, if we want to take community relations seriously and end violence, we need a department, a bureau for community relations. We don't have one. The only office for community relations is in the same office as our SWAT team. We need to provide a space where people can go to and talk about how do we build safe communities, what is the work that we need to do, and if we create that space, we can do all of the things that everybody talked about, but we need an office that can house this work. And if we set that as our mission, and if we get more officers out of their cars on bikes, we'll get there.
The word enforcement is the wrong word for us to use. I would challenge us to start with the word engagement, because it is about community engagement. Successful violence prevention starts with the implementation of HOPE, like my brother said. I spent 4 years with the Boston 10-Point Coalition as a volunteer counselor for the DYS Hope Ministry, and that is what our young incarcerated men have said, that they need hope, they need opportunities. And I have experience with building opportunities for our youth. Right here at ABCD 5 years ago, we built a youth program that has been developed over the past 5 years to serve 186 young people with not only a civics and financial literacy curriculum over the course of 3 weeks, but we partner with our Winter Works and Summer Works program to guarantee a winter internship and a summer job the next summer. They have hope, they have something to look forward to. And so I would use that experience to actually have a connection with our community, to be able to build those skills with incentivized individuals who can mirror that opportunity for others. Thank you.
Former Boston police officer who walked the beat in District 7. I understand that true community policing is having officers get out of the cruisers, interacting with the community, looking like the community, speaking the language of the community, worshiping in the community, doing business in the community, and loving the community. But also, we need to make sure that we understand who our neighbors are. We need to have monthly meetings on our streets. Get to know your neighbor. Discuss the issues and the concerns of your streets. And men, as my brother would say, men need to take responsibilities of our homes and our streets and make our community safe and decent for our women and our children. Also, a civilian review board with subpoena powers. That's what we need. We need to make sure that our community is involved, and as your next city councilor for District 7, I will support those initiatives. It's not rocket science to do the right thing.
On Wednesday, June 28, 2017, the Boston City Council approved a $3.15 billion budget for the City of Boston. Of that, 40%, $1.08 billion, was allocated to the Boston Public Schools. This is against the backdrop of pervasive racial achievement and opportunity gaps, schools in turnaround status, and underfunding for programs and services to support the well-being of our children. Our first question to the even number holders there. What strategies would you use to hold Boston Public Schools accountable for providing quality preparatory education to Black and Latino students in light of this budget?
Janey, Mass Advocates for Children. I'm very proud of the work that I've done in partnership with a number of organizations, some of whom are here tonight, like the NAACP, in our fight for equity, access, and opportunity for our children. I have led work on fighting for English language learners and helped develop a dual language program for Latino students in Spanish. I think funding is a big issue for our schools. We need to make sure that we have full funding to actually meet the needs of the students. We have some different challenges in terms of closing the achievement gaps. We can leverage our power as a community, as residents, as a city councilor to hold the city, to hold the Boston Public Schools accountable. You bring the superintendent and his team before you, and you can advocate for certain programs and make sure that our students are being served. And right now they're being failed, particularly Black and Latino students.
I don't even think that $1.8 billion for all the schools that we have in Boston is enough money. That's my point. We don't teach we don't treat our teachers with value. We need to add teachers to our classrooms that reflect the students that they are teaching. We need to start sitting here and thinking that every time a child is hyper and don't want to sit down, we label them as ADD instead of realizing that we took out all the recreation out of humanities out of the schools. So we are no longer teaching, they no longer have recess, they no longer have physical ed, and they certainly are not teaching them civics or financial literacy in our schools. We need to bring back our humanities. We need to give the schools more funding, and maybe perhaps cut some of the police funding, since that's where a lot of our money is going in the city, and give it to our schools, because our education is more valuable. And if we talk about education and mental health, is better.
When I came to Boston, I went to English high school. I was a ESL student there. So I know what it's like to speak English as a second language, and Boston Public Schools expects you to perform the same level as your American peer. Today, my 4 children are attending to Boston Public Schools. You know, in Boston, we preach that we are a global city, and our schools does not represent global education. As a city council, I will make sure that schools are funded, teachers are diversified, and also to close the achievement gap, we need a policy that's transparent. Right now, I don't think we have a policy that's transparent. 45% of our children are English language learners, and the teachers that are teaching them to speak English are not culturally competent. We need administration that represent their students. And as a city council, I will do that.
As a city councilor, I will speak as a former Boston Public School student, but as a student who didn't receive the support, whether it be emotionally or academically, to matriculate fully through a Boston Public School. I was one of those students at Latin Academy who wasn't able to finish it because they weren't prepared to support Black and brown young men. And I think it's critical that we have a city council who can speak to that issue. Ensuring that the quality of education that students receive at Boston Latin is the same quality of education that students receive at the Burke. And that's one of the main issues. It's not an achievement gap, it's an opportunity access issue. But we're not providing all of our students access to pathways to be successful. To these industries that the city of Boston has, whether it be med, whether it be ed and tech. We're not preparing our young people to enter into these industries upon graduation because we're not valuing them. And we need to make sure that they are our priority. We claim that they're our priority, but we don't fully fund them, and our budget shows our priorities.
Absolutely, we need innovative ways to raise funds in Boston Public Schools. Right, in my business, what we do, we either sell more or we create efficiencies in what we do. In Boston Public Schools, we can tax the community more or we can create efficiencies in Boston Public Schools. I would propose creating currently we pay $1,000 more per student than the 200 largest school systems in the nation. I would propose creating or incorporating ride sharing into our transportation network, because we're sending buses that are half full of students, but we're still paying for the entire bus. If we incorporate ride sharing, we could create efficiencies by sending smaller vehicles to pick up kids, and therefore we would generate funds, and those funds could then be funneled into programs that do work in our system. Thank you.
What strategies would you use to help ensure that the schools in District 7 are provided with the tools and resources they need to prepare our children to compete in a global economy?
A strategy that I would use as a city councilor is pretty broad. Our students in District 7 don't only go to schools in District 7. So I would focus on our schools here in the local district, but it has to be a little bit broader. And I think we need to audit them and grade them as they would our children. We have buildings that are not clean, they don't have clean air, they don't have clean water, they're not a clean building. So starting there and working on the facilities is something we should look at. My strategy would be outreach to parents in their home language, because we can't fix an achievement gap if parents aren't even aware that there is one. Pressuring the 4 at-large councilors that also represent District 7 that often get a free ride in our issues. I would use a strategy that I use as a state rep, and that's organizing the electeds of color and those that represent communities of color to work as a cohesive unit of 12 or more to put pressure to change the policies a little faster and to make sure that we continue to engage the community because every family has a different need for their child, and we need to hear them one by one to make sure that the fit works for their child and their family. Fully fund is easy, but we need to make sure it's being spent wisely. Thank you.
In order to ensure that District 7 schools have the resources that they need, we need to look at programs that will increase the graduation rate. We also need to work with parents and the schools in order to increase communication. There are too many parents who feel like their children are not being adequately educated and they're not being communicated with by the teachers that are teaching their children. Thank you.
I share this with all of you, and I mean it. Look it up. The quality of education that our children are receiving is unconstitutional. We have a state constitution, the first one that included public education, and one of our judges, Judge Botsford, found that we were failing our children. That happened, and it's still happening today. We can do so much more. I've been in that classroom. I was there for 7 years, and our kids, they're beautiful. They're brilliant, they have ideas, they have passion, and they want to be a part of this city. But we neglect them, we treat them with contempt, and we treat them with fear. And we can do so much better. So here's what I'll do. Number one, I will convene our business partners and our university partners and find out what do we need to change in our curriculum so that when our students are leaving here, they can enter Boston and they can work, live, and stay here. But we need to think about that, and we don't. Our curricula have not been updated in a long time, needs to happen. In addition, we need to strengthen these partnerships with colleges, universities, because they write off millions of dollars in credits and don't tell us how they're serving our children.
I feel that partnerships is really the way to go. They can fill in the gap, because if businesses want a competitive workforce, they need to invest in the youth that we are building today. I have experience with that, where just 2 years ago, I worked with Councilor Jackson to leverage what was initially supposed to be a $25,000 grant to over $200,000 in services, at the Nathan Hale, right down the street. And so we can find opportunities like that to fund the innovative ways that we want to see our children learn. Because only 50% of our children are graduating within 6 years. But the part that they don't tell you is only 70% of our children are actually graduating high school to have the opportunity to go to college. We need to change that. We'll change that by empowering the parents to understand the education process and advocacy options so they know what their kids are going through and how to support them. And then also building out of school time opportunities so that we don't have learning loss during the time they're not in school. Thank you.
We need to focus on STEAM, S-T-E-A-M, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. That's what we need to do. As a former graduate of Madison Park High School who received the prestigious Dr. Martin Luther King Scholarship to go to Boston University, I understand how important those items are. As the founder of one of Boston Arts Academy, as one of the parents who founded Boston Arts Academy, I understand how important art is. However, we need to understand that 1.8 billion is not enough. We can have our colleges and universities pay their fair share. As of 2009, colleges and universities in Massachusetts don't pay property tax, but we do. If they pay property tax for 1 year, it would generate $45.5 billion. $45.5 billion. Along with that, the colleges and universities receive over $800 billion in endowments.
Time's up, please.
The money's there.
As a former teacher in the Boston Public School System, I taught Japanese, mathematics, and science, and also administrated for 3 years. Children are not the problem. We adults, we're the problem. We don't want to hold anyone accountable to anything, because at first we have to hold ourselves accountable for what we've not done. So we have to hold the union accountable for holding bad teachers in the classroom instead of getting rid of them. We have to hold the system accountable for holding bad administrators in the building and not getting rid of them. We have the problem. We have to hold ourselves accountable for holding bad counselors, for not holding people accountable. Every district has 5 counselors. District 7 has 5 counselors, 4 at large and 1 District 7 counselor. All 5 are our counselors. We have all 5 of them. Imagine if you go to a conversation, you got 5 people backing you up, right? And not 1, 5. We have to hold all 5 accountable to get something done. That's how we change the system.
2 cards I have that combine questions that we received from the audience, and they want to talk a little bit more about education and also want to talk about youth. Boston City Council recently had a hearing on the issue of training teachers to deal with questions on immigration, and specifically on the issue of dealing with immigration officials. Where do you stand on this issue? Given the current political climate, should teachers be equipped to handle these kinds of situations, and if so, how? Issues around immigration.
The immigration thing is very touchy. As an immigrant myself, and we need to come up with some common ground as to what we're going to do with our students that are immigrant students. We need to make policies around protecting the students in public schools. Because although I was talking to this with someone the other day, although we say we are a sanctuary city, at the end of the day, we can't fight ISIS. We can't fight the government. We can't stop them from actually taking an illegal immigrant from anywhere in the city. However, we do need to make maybe some closed-door policies where we know where there's immigrant students and be able to protect these immigrant students from this action. So I really don't, I'm really I'm on the fence of which way to go about these immigrant issues, because we really don't have a solid solution considering the fact that we do not control the government. We can make a sanctuary city all we want, but there's nothing we can really do against ICE.
Like my brother at the table noted that I'm also an immigrant woman who devoted her life advocating for other immigrants. And someone who, her children go to Boston Public Schools, is not only the teachers that needs cultural competency. Our students are bullying each other because of where they come from. Immigrant students being told over and over their classmate, go back to, go back to your country. So we need training around immigration, and we need to protect them. I feel like teachers have been asking over and over again, they need a training, and nobody's listening to them. For example, my children attend Boston Public School, and my young second grade had a classmate where the student was not going through the line, and the teacher...
Thank you so much.
Our schools have to be, they must be sanctuary schools. ICE agents have no place in our schools, period, ever. We need to make sure that all children feel safe and welcomed and included. And one of the ways we do that, beyond dealing with ICE agents, is that we do a better job in our curriculum. We have to make sure that we are pushing for, and what I've been pushing for, is a decolonized curriculum that recognizes the contributions of everyone in our community.
Yes. The reality is that a lot of the time teachers are with our students more than the parents are. You know, if you include before school, during school, and after school, sometimes they're with them 8 hours a day. And there are occasions where students are sometimes more comfortable speaking with their teachers about specific issues than they are speaking with their family or their parents. So yes, to answer your question, teachers should absolutely be able to have conversations around the immigrant issue, definitely.
Short answer is yes, but it's unfortunate that our teachers even have to wear that hat and have to wear it alone. So we need to make sure that we're supporting our schools to have that conversation. So we're not leaving it on our teachers who have to then teach to the MCAD, still have to worry about all these other issues to have to tackle immigration in this climate. So short answer is yes, but they need to be supported, and yes, that's it, they need to be supported.
Youth are a very important part of this city. Their voices matter. How are you going to include youth in your decision-making process as a city councilor?
Our youth definitely have an important voice in our community. Just this past week, I went to Boston Green Academy and was able to sit in on a rally and listen to a program where the students had actually come to Urban Edge here in Roxbury and were rallying against gentrification. So I think it's important to make sure that our youth feel like their voices are being heard, like the issues that they have challenges with are being addressed, and I look forward to being able to do that as a city councilor.
One of the things I miss the most are children from when I was teaching, because they're kind. Here's what we can do. I think that they should be allowed more of a voice on our school committee. They don't always attend, and the ones that are there don't feel like they participate. Let's empower them on the school committee. In addition, I would actually legislate as a city councilor a place for them on the Committee of Education at the City Council. Right now, there is no place for them that's legislated. Let's create a space for them so that they have a legislated seat at that table.
I think that we need to expand on the role that BSAC has, the Boston Student Advisory Council. I think that where they already are an existing advisory council that is mandated to exist, we need to expand on how they influence not only Boston Public Schools, but the issues that face their community. I also feel that, similar to the students in Boston Public Schools, we should have a community opportunity for our young people who may be in other types of schools, whether it be private, independent, or charter, to join with them as well on the issues that they're concerned about. Thank you.
Having town hall meetings once a month for our youth. Also having a district office where our youth are volunteering in the district office. The district office would be open 7 days a week, understanding that our youth are our future. And why is it that we have turned our back on our children? We need to listen to them because they're innovative and creative. Thank you.
In order to give our youth a voice, they need to vote. So I'm proposing to have an elected school body. Return to an elected school body where the youth have 2 votes that count. That way we engage our youth in the process. And they actually will get more from it by actually knowing their vote actually counts, that they can actually now teach and chime down to every other student in our system.
As a youth worker, I'll continue to be a mentor, but the real simple list is to the city council. I would hire them, I'd meet them where they are and engage with them, whether that's a basketball court, the school, the corner store. Take them seriously. Be honest with them, be forgiving and understanding with them. I would help them organize around the issues that are important to them, whether it's a neighborhood issue, a school issue, or etc. Model better rites of passage for our young men and women in our neighborhood, and partner with youth-led organizations that are already doing good work and support that work that they do. Thank you.
I believe that we need to hear from the people and the people who may not necessarily be engaged in the voting process. So I definitely want to expand on our constituent services to make sure that we have town halls where people feel welcome to discuss the challenges that we know exist in income inequality, in housing, and in education primarily, but also allow for other opportunities for them to discuss the issues that we may not always be aware of, because as much as we know, there's always a thing that we don't know, and that is from the people who aren't being heard. So we want to make sure that where we know that our voters are not representing all of the district, we need to open doors to make sure that we hear from everyone until we can encourage them to be part of the political process that we hold so dear. Thank you.
My vision for District 7 is one that is an epicenter of activity. We see it in the South End, we see it in Fenway, we see it in Dorchester, but we just don't see it in Roxbury. In order to get there, we'll need to focus on housing, we'll need to focus on education, and we'll need to make sure that our seniors are supported and that long-term residents are not displaced. I focus on these issues in my neighborhood association, and we've had numerous successes. I look forward to expanding on those successes and pushing them across the district and across the city if I can. I look forward to engaging with all of you this long, long summer, knocking on all of your doors, and earning your vote on September 26th. Thank you so much. My name is Brian Key.
Education, safety, economic development. Stop focusing on minimum wages. Focus on a livable wage. Right now, our community is in survival mode. We need to make a minimum of $23 to $25 an hour in order to live in our community. Our community is in survival mode. We are surviving paycheck to paycheck when we should be thriving. Why not? Like I said, it's not rocket science to do the right thing. Public safety, having those officers who look like the community, who speak the language of the community, who get out the cruiser, who interact with our community, who love our community. And then when it comes to education, understanding that we have Tier 1 through Tier 4 schools. We have a lot of Tier 1 schools, so we should look at those Tier 1 schools, educate the community on what is a Tier 1 school, and then follow the model of a Tier 1 school so that our children can be successful. Put civics back into the Boston Public Schools, put prayer back into the Boston Public Schools, and also having teachers who look like our students, who speak the language of our students. My name is Charles Clemons Muhammed. I look for your vote on September the 26th. I cannot be bought.
I want to thank you again for being here, showing that Roxbury District 7 is engaged in this process, and we're not going to allow our voice to be silenced anymore. As your city councilor, I think the first thing we have to do is do an accurate assessment of what we have. What assets do we have? We talk about these construction jobs, these development jobs that come up, but we don't have an accurate assessment of how many OSHA certified people we have within the district, how many plumbers we have within the district. So we have to start doing that to find out what assets we have, and then we can begin to address the gaps that we have here, ensuring that the education that our children are receiving, whether they go to the Lewis, whether they go to the Trotter, is top notch. We talk about Tier 1. We have to define Tier 1 of the education that students are receiving at Boston Latin, and ensuring that our children receive that same level of quality education. Ensuring that the jobs that are present within the city of Boston, our residents have access to. City jobs, state jobs that provide those wages that we don't have access to right now. Ensuring that our community is represented in City Hall, in the State House, and in these park and recreation jobs that can provide the livable wage, the benefits that can help sustain our community. Housing, increasing our housing stock. Ensuring that the demand is meeting what we have. That's why we're being pushed out. The demand is so high, but we don't have the housing stock that fits our community. I'm a lifelong Roxbury resident. My commitment to this community is not based on an election. I've been here doing this work, and I ask you to look at my resume, and I ask you for your vote September 26th. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. My first day on the job is going to be more like, we have to stabilize gentrification. We have to preserve our neighborhoods. Because if we don't live here, then having education, having public safety, having economic development doesn't mean anything to us. Because we don't live in the city. So for me, the number one thing is preserving our neighborhoods. Number two, education. And three, public safety. Now, you might ask yourself, well, how do you do that? We have a 5-point plan on how to preserve our neighborhoods that we're rolling out as of next week. 5-point plan, listen for it. It's a way to preserve our neighborhoods while allowing and welcoming folks who are coming in, because we need people to come into our community. But we need them to come in a way that keeps us in our community, not throws us out. Everyone doesn't own a home. In fact, 65% of people in the city of Boston rent. 65%. And so if we don't preserve our neighborhoods, none of us will live here. Our campaign really is about solutions. We said it from day one, experience, action, and solutions. I have the experience, I'm not a talker, I'm a doer, and I focus on solutions. I learned that when I was in school in Japan. They don't focus on the problem, they focus on how do you solve the problem. So for us, it's about solutions. And if you want solutions, you want to vote for Hassan Williams. I am the right person for the job. I've been working in this community all my life. I work in the courts now with our kids. It's not pretty, but we can together solve these issues. There always will be problems. Let's solve them. So I'm asking for your vote September 26th, and I'm asking your vote on November 7th. Thank you.
Frederick Douglass said, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." That is why I have dedicated my life to lifting up children and families in our community. As an organizer, I will continue in my advocacy for children in our education system, making sure that they get the quality education that they deserve. Right now, they're being failed. We have to address the income inequality in our community. Right now, there is just this big discrepancy in terms of who gets access to what. With economic development, we have to move toward economic justice. We have to make sure that we are supporting local businesses in our community and making sure projects that we do as an economic engine so that people of color and women can start businesses. To start a business, you have to make sure that they can afford the rent. So we need to make sure that they're getting some sort of help along the way in the first few years. That's the only way we can stay in our community with the economic piece. And with the economic piece, we have to address the housing. We have to make sure that there are creative solutions to our housing crisis. This is a crisis. I will also focus on the criminal justice system because we can't just talk about public safety. We have to make sure that our communities are strong, healthy, and safe. And that's what I'm fighting for, and I ask for your support. I hope to earn your vote on September 26th. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to talk to you real plain and honestly because I love you. I spoke to you earlier in my opening about having a resume of service and results and what comes with it. So first I want to actually answer the question, and that was, what are the first 3 challenges that you would face entering City Council? My first challenge would be finding out who I would vote for as City Council President, because that determines what committees I would be able to chair or serve on, which would then allow me to highlight the issues and impact the issues that we're talking about today from the platform that you have as a City Councilor. The second would be to create a full-time communication system that engages residents around the issues, the policy, the legislation that we talked about tonight, the same way we engage you during these campaigns. So making sure that we knock your doors, we call your phones, we leave flyers at your door about when it's time to vote on a budget issue or an issue in the city. And then preparing for the budget, because the budget is the largest piece. So in my experience of being a state legislator, I learned that politics is about power. And I would like to see District 7 be a powerful district. Not because of the city councilor that represents them, but because of the power within each resident. And that comes from organizing. That comes from working relationships that we have to build. We know what we don't want, we know what we don't have, and we know what we want. So there does need to be an asset-based strategy where we figure out how we go from one spot to the next. The issues we're talking about are systemic. They're not new. They've been going on for decades. Our parents have faced them. So while as your city councilor, I will look to serve each individual and their families, I will also do the work to challenge these systems on a systemic basis. And that means working with other legislators at a city, state, and federal level, and creating a power block of communities that look like us to tackle these issues. I'm not going to ask you for your vote today, but I'm going to ask that you give me the opportunity to earn it between now and September 26th. Thank you. My name is Carlos Henriquez.
The first 3 things I want to do, first I need to get in there and I need to assess what is going on and what is going on in City Hall and the different programs and all the different nonprofits that are getting funded and all these other things to focus on taking that funding and putting it into education and housing. I would also beef up our mental health service and trauma services. Because we sit here and we talk about, you know, the opioid abuse, we talk about the crime, we talk about all these things that are happening in our community, education. But if we don't have people that are mentally served, because there's a lot of mental health issues going on with our community, PTSD being one of them. And someone like me that grew up in knowing the system and knowing how important mental health is to our community, having a brother that was murdered in the streets of Boston because of mental health issues, and not having services, or not being able to go into a courtroom and ask them to suction him, because they say that, you know, he needs to identify he has a mental health issue. So we need to work with on those situations, and I would work with our state reps and our state senate across up the hill to fix those issues. I would also work on small businesses. Small businesses are being pushed out of our community one by one. Look at Dudley. We do have some small businesses, but if you see how many doors are closed already there, we need to bring them back. We need to realize that we need a voice, a strong voice, someone that is not going to back down at City Hall. And I'm not a go along to get along type of person. I am get it done type of person.
The first three challenges that I tackle as the City Councilor for District 7 would, of course, be increasing affordable housing units and holding developers to providing community benefits to the communities that they're moving into. The second issue that I would like to tackle is, of course, making sure that we have access to a District 7 office right here in our community. That's where I got my start. I think it's important for community engagement, and it will also provide access for elderly citizens who can't necessarily access City Hall. The third issue that I'd like to fight for is against income inequality. We're going to be calling for the diversification of the police force and the fire department. Those are $100,000 a year jobs. We need to see more of our residents in them. And then, of course, putting more of our CORI and court-involved youth into jobs and providing them with economic opportunities. For me, this is not just about myself. It's about creating a better community for ourselves, for our children, the legacy that we'd like to see left, and creating a more equitable system for District 7 residents. So that's what I'm going to be advocating for. I hope to engage with all of you between now and September 26th, and I will be asking for your vote.
As a city council, my priorities would be public safety, someone who survived in Civil War and lives in Roxbury and hears gunshots during the day. I will be, public safety would be my top priority. Inclusive schools, someone who went to school and learned English as a second language. We want our schools to be inclusive. Economic opportunity, someone who came to America with nothing and started 6 local businesses. We need to empower our district that they can start businesses, and as a city council, I will make sure that minorities and small businesses get the contracts and the resources that they need. My other top priority would be affordable housing. As I told you guys earlier, I live in affordable housing. Affordable housing is a reality for me. So as a city council, I will champion affordable housing. And I thank you for listening to my story, and I'm excited to learn about your story when I canvass, and I ask your vote, and I'm looking forward to meeting each one of you. Thank you.
I fell in love with the city of Boston for the many reasons that all of you choose to stay here. And you've seen for many years what was coming. And now it's here. So here are the things that I would work on first. Housing equity. I would make sure that we offer incentives to our landlords to rent to our seniors and make those homes accommodating for them and accessible for them. I would incentivize to those landlords programs so that they can fix their homes if they rent to low-income tenants. In addition, I would focus on educational equity. The first thing I would do was make sure the city council demands that our mayor changes the Office of Equity in Boston Public Schools and makes it report directly to the mayor. That was one thing that we had that helped diversify our schools and make things better for children of color. And we lost that, and we need to put that back in place. In addition, I would make sure that we would not just meet this 25% federal court order for African American teachers, but that we would surpass that. Because that order was made in 1974, and our school systems now look way different than they did back then. Our seniors, I would make sure that we stabilize housing for seniors, and we anticipate the healthcare changes that are going to be putting additional stress on their budgets if this healthcare reform passes. We need to be smart and create ways that we can reduce the effect on that population that we have, because we know that it's coming. I left the classroom to become an attorney because I believe in this city, and I'm running now because I do the same.
We've got to put our hands together for this fantastic group of candidates. I have to say, each and every one, for me as a resident here, you are an inspiration, that you would stand up and run for office, and that you would craft your positions. You'd be here shoulder to shoulder with your colleagues, trying to really commit yourself, or you have committed yourself to public service, no matter whether you're elected or not. One message I have to the candidates is, whoever is successful, wouldn't it be great if these folks all came back together, working on behalf of this community? So I'll challenge the winner of this campaign to bring the candidates back, because each of you have shown that you have a commitment to the city and to District 7. I want to also acknowledge our audience and thank each and every one of you for your interest and participation here tonight. Thank you, audience members. The organizers asked me to pick out someone who is a barrier breaker in this community and no stranger to this community, and that is Sarah Ann Shaw. And I put you on the spot. Sarah's going to kill me, but for those of you who don't know, we had press here tonight because this is an important race, and we're so happy the press came out tonight. But you need to know that Sarah Ann was the first African-American TV reporter, and she comes from our very own Roxbury. I also want to say, too, that the candidates have agreed to hang out with us for a little while, as long as we can stay in the building. So you're going to be able to talk to them, get their information, meet their campaign managers. They also were asking them to collect their campaign material before they leave, because it can't stay here on the premises. But they're going to be here to talk to you, so you should stay around and talk to them. And then in closing, I want to, of course, remind you, and they did this several times, that we have a preliminary election on September 26th, general election on November 7th. We know each and every one of you will be voting. But how about bringing a couple of your neighbors with you to the polls? That would really be a great thing. So I'm going to end here. We Decide Coalition. If you don't know them, come talk to Steve, come talk to Cheryl, come talk to all the organizers. Thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to be your moderator. Thank you.